Hey guys, I'm PlaidPagan.
I'm Moon Witch.
And this week we're talking about the Apocalypse Trilogy by John Carpenter.
And if you don't know those three films, it's Prince of Darkness, Mouth of Madness, and The Thing. Tune in, guys.
Welcome back to the GUADCAST. As we mentioned in the introduction, we're going to be covering the Apocalypse Trilogy this week, and it is a series of films directed by John Carpenter. A trilogy that isn't actually a trilogy in the typical sense. They are more theme.
Yeah, they're not necessarily
thematic trilogy.
Yeah,
it's like a thematic trilogy.
Yeah.
They deal with the similar, hence they deal with the apocalypse, hence the name of the Apocalypse Trilogy. But before we get into that, for those that aren't familiar with the Apocalypse Trilogy, it's three films, starting with The Thing,
1982,
Prince of Darkness,
1987,
and Mouth of Madness,
1995.
Now, as I've mentioned before, The Thing is my all-time favorite horror movie, and Mouth of Madness is in my top 5. So two of these films are my top 5 horror movies of all time. So
I love the Mouth of Madness so
I have
much.
a lot to say about these movies, but today we wanted to more talk about
like the themes of the movie.
Yeah.
I think what we will do. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in on you, but
it's all good.
we can, as we go through each film, we can give a bit of a synopsis. But we wanted to talk more about the actual like apocalypse theme and theories of these movies, and kind of like how we're not going to do like a super deep dissection, but more like how we view these apocalypse endings and how they're all very different apocalypse films. They're not. Like we were kind of talking before, like typically when you see apocalypse movies, they go out with some sort of like really big bang. We see like huge natural disasters or like crazy nuclear war, and these apocalypse
Zombies.
Yeah.
Viral outbreak.
Yeah, some kind of viral outbreak. Yeah, why didn't I not think of that first, right? Being the horror freaks we are. Morona. And now I lost my train of thought, you fucking asshole. I'm just kidding. So we want to talk about the themes, and I totally lost my train of thought.
So three very different themes from these movies. One, we're dealing with an alien invasion. One, we're dealing with the basically like John Carpenter's version of like God and the devil, sort of. Like,
yes.
God and the anti-God.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then the final film is of course the awakening of the old gods, the cosmic horror. All three of these films, I would argue, are very cosmic horror, but for each one has slightly different reasons. But anyway, yeah. So
absolutely.
I think basically with the Mouth of Madness as theme, it's more about like just kind of the degradation of society as a whole.
Yeah, and even John Carpenter once said that his themes are each movie is a way the world could end, but each in a very different way. We see that in each of these movies, what if the world ended by a slow erosion of what we believe to be our reality, of what we know, of what makes up our pillars of existence in society and order, right? So each of these movies will go through and literally break down reality, literally break down order as we know it, to eventually meeting the end of the world, like the apocalypse. Yeah, they each depict it in such a different way.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good point. All three of them really do that, kind of reshape what the norm would be. With The Thing, it would be, now we're all part of this entity that replicates our matter, right?
Yeah.
With the Prince of Darkness, it's the anti-verse coming through and like flipping the known material world upside down. And then with Mouth of Madness, it's the old gods awakening and like sanity becoming insanity and sanity becoming sanity.
Right.
So like
right.
the whole concept of what is real or not and they even talk about that in the film specifically. It like the flipping of sane and insane.
Yep. And I like how you mentioned that all of these films are your favorite genre, are cosmic horror, because it's no surprise that John Carpenter is very much inspired by the tales of H.P. Lovecraft and Cthulhu. And like I said, we know that these films are a gradual erosion of humanity and reality inspired by this cosmic world that H.P. Lovecraft has created. In each of these movies, these characters all face some kind of power or monster or creature that is unknown to them, and what they go through in these films is like it's a huge ordeal. It's not any kind of simple task that these characters are up against. They are up against powers that are unknown to humankind, right? So we
overwhelming odds.
Yeah, so we see these crazy old gods, this kind of power, these other realms, these monsters and the thing that just literally that are up, like humans are up against, and we don't know what they are. We can't communicate with them. We don't even know their motives, but they're here. They're coming here for some reason to bring the apocalypse, but we don't know why, right? So it's a very terrifying thought.
Yeah, and then we talked about this because we've rewatched. I
watch rewatch. Yeah.
Yeah, I watch these films all the time. Like these are like a regular set of films that I watch.
Yeah.
So not so much Prince of Darkness. In my opinion, it's the weakest of the three. Some people will fight me on that, but I personally feel like it's the weakest of the three. The Thing being the biggest, the most
the strongest one.
Strongest. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Especially with the cinematography and the thing.
Yeah, the acting,
good.
everything, the score. Oh, fuck, the score is so good.
It's unsettling.
It's just paranoia, panic-inducing. Like,
yeah,
you just hear the sound. And then The Mouth of Madness, I think, is also an excellent film. It's a little bit behind The Thing, but it's still a fucking amazing film.
Yeah. And I love these films about the warped realities that people are faced with, specifically in The Mouth of Madness. I fucking love that film so much. And okay, I don't want to get into the synopsis just yet. We will eventually. But the warped reality is just like, they're such a trip, but they're so much fun. And the one thing with John Carpenter's films too is that he says that the world is chaotic, and to make sense of it is just to be insane, like to go into madness, to descend into madness, right? And that's very much a theme that H.P. Lovecraft writes about as well. And I just love that idea of warped realities. And what is a reality? Reality is whatever we believe it to be, right? So
this kind of gets onto like a kind of a human or like a social aspect as well, in the sense that as human beings we tend to try to put order into chaos, and nature, and we talked a little bit this in our last episode with the witch. Nature is primordial, nature is chaos. And humans, we tend to what we call humanize things and try to make order out of chaos, but that's not how things are supposed to be. The actual universe in many ways is chaos. I mean, even when you bring religion into it, it's still chaos, right?
Yeah.
If you want to talk about Christianity, it's God making order of everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas it's still this, I mean, he created everything, but it's still chaos. And, so this idea of nature and humankind trying to conquer everything, even with simple things with these social structures of what we would view to be sane or insane, is completely a human made-up concept. Time is a human concept, right? These are things that like don't exist in reality. These are things that we make up.
It's funny because I was just watching Psycho Gourmet too, and he's like, "Oh, you humans keeping track of time is so primitive," and I'm like, "Yo, it's so true."
Psycho Gorman. I fucking love that movie.
The movie's so golden. Anyways, we can talk about that another day.
Yeah.
One more quick thing before I think we jump into each individual film. One more thing I quickly wanted to mention with the theme of these films, not necessarily the apocalypse. Well, I guess it's kind of like an apocalyptic theme as well. But each of these films is very much a domestic kind of horror.
Yes,
right?
100%. Yeah.
Each character or each group of characters, the cast, in each of their movies, these groups of characters are very much set apart from society, and it feels like wherever they are in this very claustrophobic setting, it feels as if their escape is completely impossible.
Yeah.
And even just that kind of that feeling you get watching these movies is also really scary, because you think of like, oh shit, like I feel like I'm near society, but I'm actually trapped away from society. Like, how will I break free? How do I get back? How do I even stop the apocalypse from coming and like warn the rest of the world? Right? You can't.
And I think that again comes down to like the cosmic horror elements. Cosmic horror is a lot of times about the frivolousness of what I was discussing with human order, the idea, the human concept of being able to control things, and being against overwhelming odds of things that we can't possibly understand or comprehend, right?
So why don't we start with, okay, we may do them slightly out of order. Why don't we start with
The Order of Greatness.
The Order of Greatness. Why don't we start with 1987 Prince of Darkness? Only because I do like this film. I think we just kind of agreed on that it's like our least favorite of the three.
I think you have more to say about this movie than I do, to be honest.
Yeah, okay. So
Coco can't make up her mind whether she wants to be on the couch or not.
Come on, baby, up.
Oh,
So
there,
why
okay.
don't I start by giving like a quick synopsis of
Can't see
the
her,
film,
Pug's over here.
and or why don't we let Coco give the synopsis? Just kidding, I would do.
You want to talk? Oh, this is a pug. Okay.
So in this film, so we know there's this mysterious green substance that a priest finds in the basement of an abandoned church, and it seems like he finds it in some kind of crypt. So what he does essentially is he reaches out to a physics professor and says, "Hey, dude, help me analyze this." So the physics professor, it seems from what I remember, he actually got together like a group of his science students, and the students are all trying to help this professor kind of investigate this green substance that they found.
There's a quick interjection there. It's it was discovered by the Vatican, and the Vatican has been keeping it a big secret in this hidden church.
Right, so that's what
It's like an order of priests or something. I forget the exact name of it.
Right. So you're right, because it's like this conspiracy of the Catholic Church that they eventually start to kind of debunk, right? So we see this film is really like a mix of science and religion, like Christian theology, meets sci-fi, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the idea is like there's the whole like foundation of religion as we know it is actually, or as we don't know it actually, is based on this sort of like antimatter realm where we see that green liquid substance probably like actually is the anti-god, or I would say like Satan himself. I took it as Satan himself as the green liquid. I don't know if it's supposed to be like an anti-god and what maybe the difference is between that.
Well, I think it's like matter and antimatter, God and anti-God. But like what would be considered the anti-God is more not a creation of God, whereas the Christian Bible would have you believe that Satan was created by God, whereas Satan is a force.
Right. So
And God is a force, and they're like opposing forces.
So that God would represent like what holds our reality together. God represents the realm of matter, where
Order, and like I was saying,
and then so Satan or the anti-god would represent the realm of antimatter, the realm of disorder and chaos. Yeah. So
sorry.
no, it's okay. I was just gonna say, so literally the students, they're just trying to investigate what this liquid substance is. You can tell that I guess Satan himself is actually trying to come into our world, into our realm of matter. And we see this through the various possessions of each of the students, right?
Yeah.
Just trying to bring, like, I guess, somehow like muster the power and the strength to actually make that transition from the realm of antimatter into the realm of matter, into our realm, right? Into our reality as we think we know it. And of course, it doesn't necessarily have a happy ending, and none of the films actually do.
No, they don't. But specifically with this one, I think is interesting where the cosmic element kind of comes in. Aside from like the disorder and like the deconstruction of what we would deem the material world, the idea is that this anti-god, the devil, whatever you want to call it, this force, this antimatter force, can't physically manifest in this world either. It appears as a disease almost, like this black plague, green substance.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It doesn't have a physical form in that sense. There's some physical representation with like a demonic hand later in the film, but in general, and I think there's like a fallen angel like at the very end. He's like standing in the church. The dream they keep having.
Well, the dream is actually the video. So I guess like every time they go to sleep, they're susceptible to this video, which is literally a video that's trying to
news broadcast from the future, basically.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. So it's trying to warn people that the apocalypse is coming, so that you need to stop it. Like, yeah, it's a news broadcast from the future saying like this is the apocalypse. So it's intuitive, saying like, hey, stop it, prevent it, right?
Yeah.
And that's essentially what the science students and the professor try to do throughout the movie, is to stop the apocalypse from coming.
Which of course they don't succeed.
Yeah, so the video is kind of trippy, right? Because it comes as a video in a broadcast news segment, but it's actually a dream they're having. Yeah, it's really neat.
And that's actually what the film ends with. It's the dream, is the fucking news broadcast.
Yeah.
Which has got them, I feel like I'm like leaning over really far. Hopefully I'm not. But
we zoomed out further.
Okay. Yeah, I just feel like I'm like sitting over here. Sorry if that fucks up.
We're also trying to keep our mics away from each other so they don't echo off each other.
Yeah, that's
constantly.
been a real fucking problem in the post-processing, let me tell you. Post-production, rather. But I was just going to say, like, this idea, the apocalypse concept there, it ends so briefly with the dream. And again, much like all three of these films, it ends on a bleak note, but you don't really know for sure that the apocalypse has happened. It ends with like this demonic force basically manifesting in the church, and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's all kind of very doom and gloom and bleak, and that's exactly what Carpenter wanted them to be as well. Not everything has to be the happy Hollywood ending, right? So, yes, dog.
Oh, the poodle's upset now.
Yeah, all the other dogs are down here.
The prince on his throne. Yeah, Becky's dog's a little poodle, and he thinks he's king shit of the world.
He's like, I'm Prince Charles. Give me everything I want. But one quick note I want to add about... Alice
Cooper plays a hobo.
He does. He kind of like leads them, right?
It's a very important side note there.
Like, how fun is that?
Love Alice.
I didn't even realize that at first until you pointed it out. I was like, oh my, that actually is Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
I thought they just made it look like him.
I think he's on the cover art, too.
He is.
Yeah, I think he's on the cover art, too.
One quick thing I want to say before I get into some of the themes of this film. Well, I guess we kind of been talking about the themes.
Yeah.
So I guess like one of the themes actually is that, you know, like you mentioned, it's a cosmic horror. Well, all the films are. This one's also a very metaphysical horror because, like I was saying earlier, the idea of Satan or the anti-god coming from the realm of antimatter, he comes from like this. How do I explain it? Like this, he represents, maybe is the word I want to say. He represents like the chaos and disorder, but like on like a molecular subatomic level. And I thought that was such a neat way to portray the anti-god or Satan. Like I would never think of portraying him in this like antimatter substance, this green liquid that he appeared. And I thought that was so clever, John Carpenter, because whenever we picture perhaps Lucifer, we think of like the fallen angel kind of thing, because we've been brainwashed to believe these images, right?
I think it's a really sharp contrast too, because you got like this kind of and like you were saying, like it's smart of Carpenter to do that, because when you think of God, you think of like the Heavenly Father, white guy, weird, right, white robes, white beard, crown, all that kind of shit, sitting on a throne. And like, and the devil in this is a pile of black goo. It's a pile of black goo or green goo.
Green goo, yeah.
Like, so it's kind of this, like, it's the opposite on so many different levels, and I think that is a very conscious choice that he made.
Absolutely, yeah.
But for me, I hated this film the first time I saw it. I fucking despised it. I didn't like it at all. I've rewatched it a few times. We watched it together the weekend that we filmed the Witch podcast, I think, actually.
We watched it right after we filmed the Witch podcast, yeah.
Yeah, so we watched that together, and I had a better taste of it. I'm still not a big fan of it, but I appreciate the themes. I just think the film is boring.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit before we move on, because I thought for a Carpenter film, he's like a master at pacing. If you look at Mouth of Madness and The Thing and Halloween, the pacing is so phenomenal in those movies. And then I thought The Prince of Darkness, well, the actors are great, and the concepts and the ideas and the way God and the anti-God are represented are so fucking cool, but the pacing was so...
And it makes
rough.
some weird script choices. It makes, like, B-movie script choices, whereas, like, in his other films, he doesn't really do
But
that.
he is B-horror, though, right?
Yeah, well, like, I mean, like, in The Thing, they all make intelligent decisions. In The Mouth of Madness, he makes intelligent decisions, rational, reasonable decisions, until he loses his mind, obviously. But in this, it's kind of like horror movie schlock type decisions, where they kind of just do dumb, impulsive things for no reason.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, I would argue the reason for that is because if you look at the movie The Thing and you look at The Mouth of Madness, these are very educated adults, very smart people. In the movie Prince of Darkness, albeit we're talking about a priest and a fucking physics professor and science students, but I think maybe the reason why they make dumber choices is because, like, oh, well, they're students. What do they know? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
That could be the silly argument, although a weak one at best.
Yeah, it's a fair counter argument, yeah.
But still, I did think that some of, like, the pacing and the execution of this film was surprisingly not good for a Carpenter film.
Yeah.
But
and the script is bad. I don't like the script at all.
I didn't care for the script either, to be honest. But I love the idea of this molecular subatomic level of fucking the anti-God coming. That blew my fucking mind. It was so cool.
I just wonder if coming off of The Thing, this movie suffers from maybe him caving to the Hollywood demands a little bit, whereas he refused to with The Thing, and The Thing bombed in the theater, right?
That's an interesting point.
I don't know for sure, but I'm just wondering if that's why this feels not so much like a Carpenter film in that sense. So maybe this one he kind of buckled under that kind of quote unquote pressure, whereas he never did that with his other films.
I think we should give Carpenter the benefit of the doubt because his other films are so fucking good.
Oh yeah.
So yes,
I'm even guilty pleasure for like his shit like Ghosts of Mars and John Carpenter's Vampires.
God, I actually love Ghost of Mars.
It's trash, but I love it.
So trash.
Yeah, I'll watch anything with Carpenter's name on it. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, same.
I love
Same. We
him so
share
fucking
that.
much, yeah.
One more theme I want to quickly mention. It's just a quick one because you said something that made me think of it before we move on. Talking about hiding these long conspiracies of the Catholic Church, which one of the conspiracy of the Catholic Church in this film is the fact that, like I said before, God represents our realm, the physical matter, the reality that we know, and then Satan and the anti-God represent the antimatter realm, right? So this in the film is depicted as a very long conspiracy of the Catholic Church. Humankind ultimately create their own demise by first denying this long conspiracy of the Catholic Church and then somehow by fluke discovering it and then exploring it and then, like, I guess letting it loose and ultimately the erosion of the world as we know it.
Yeah, exactly. I think the other part too is it kind of implies this is that basically the Catholic Church knows God doesn't really exist in the context that we think of it, right? In like from like a Catholic theology or Christian theology in general. Any theology that believes in a monotheistic deity, but.
Nicely put.
Yeah, but yeah. So I think that's kind of the Catholic Church knows that. They also know the devil isn't real, and they hide it so that they can kind of keep manipulating control with religion, which is another interesting thing because Carpenter famously doesn't like religion either. So it's kind of another. It's so not only is this movie a fuck you to society, it's also a fuck you to organized religion.
Yeah, the film was saying like God doesn't exist, and if you believe in Christ, well, he's not real. He was just some kind of humanoid alien that came to Earth to warn us.
and you've basically created your own little game where you continue to be controlled. I mean, George Carlin talked about the same thing too, right? The bullshit industry of religion. But anyway, I'm not going to bash on religion.
Yeah,
just think that
we did that a lot in The Witch.
yeah, they think that the movie's kind of got this low key like religion is bullshit.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, so for this one, we're going to kind of jump between both of our views a little bit because we both have very positive vibes about this movie. But before we get started, I just want to ask you guys, do you read Sutter Kane?
Didn't even expect you to do that. The apocalypse causing novels of Sutter Kane. Sutter Kane, who's like literally like if you put Stephen King and H.P. Lovecraft in a blender and then drank it, you get Sutter Kane.
Well, like I like how they call out Stephen King, but I think the fact that his name is Sutter Kane was enough. You didn't really need.
I thought they said Stephen King at first.
Yeah, because then they're like, oh, he outsells Stephen King, and I'm like, we already got the vibe you were jabbing at King.
I thought that was awesome. I was like,
yeah, but it's just fun pokes. It's not shitting on King by any means. I feel like there's definitely some like King vibes in this story. The whole like small town.
For sure, yeah. There's no disrespect to King at all.
Yeah,
no way.
No. Yeah, it's very much a tribute, if anything. So yeah, this movie follows the fraud investigator, Sam Neill's character, John Trent.
Yeah.
Trent?
Yeah.
Is it Trenton or Trenton?
Trent.
Okay,
Yeah.
I always get that confused. Who basically just is, he's like a fraud investigator to like people who claim insurance fraud, and he basically debunks it so that they don't have to pay the fucking if people are trying to fuck people on.
Yeah, because they'll lose millions and stuff.
Yeah. So that's kind of what. So he gets hired to do this job where this writer is gone missing, and the publication company is looking to get the publication company. What a fucking choice of words. The publisher. The publisher hires him because they think Sutter Kane has fucked off, but he owes that he owes them a book, right? So, John just thinks it's some big elaborate like hoax to sell more books. Right?
Yeah, so John Trent, Sam Neill's character, he thinks it's just a huge publicity stunt, and he's there to like essentially just debunk it and be like, nah, I call bullshit.
Is he the guy that writes that horror crap? So I love that line so much. You ever heard of Sutter Kane? Is he the guy that writes that horror crap?
Yo, Sam Neill is like at his peak of acting in this film. It's so good. Like I know him as Dr. Grant the Dinosaur Man from Stephen King's Stephen King. Steven Spielberg's.
Jurassic Park would have been a very different story.
Stephen King, the fucking T-Rex would have turned into Cthulhu.
Would have like had its face split open into like 10 more. Like anyway.
That actually would have been so sick. I'm yelling into your mic. I'm so sorry. I'm drowning out your voice with my big ass.
But like, yeah, I love Sam Neill. Like I knew him obviously from Jurassic Park, but also from The Omen 3.
Yeah, The Omen 3.
Yeah, The Omen 3, Event Horizon, another one of my favorite films. Super underrated film.
Another one of your cosmic horror films.
Yeah,
so
cosmic
good,
horror. I'll jerk off to cosmic horror all day.
Yeah, you do.
I love it. Even the bad ones.
You should have like, we were trying to watch Prince of Darkness, films. And he's like jerking off. I'm like, dude, really?
Fuck off. Just whipped it out. It's like, remember in Buddy's going down, he just decides to whip it out and starts jerking like mad. No, it was fucking Mallrats. When he said at the end, Buddy just starts beating like mad. Everyone else takes a cue from him.
I was thinking of the scene from Cabin Fever where the girl's like, when the plane is crashing, like, what you want to do is grab the person beside you and fuck the shit out of them.
Yeah, I think they were carrying off the tales of Kevin Smith.
Especially if it's like some big sweaty guy. I definitely want to fuck the shit out of him before I die.
Fucking totally derailed this conversation with sweaty guys and Sam Neill. But
Oh my god, I gotta get my shit together.
yeah, it's okay because I feel like the last episode was like super like high stress, and this one
People
is
were like,
yeah.
this one we're like, yo, what's that?
So, I love the setting for this movie too. Like it does it in this. So he goes to this like this town that they say doesn't exist, but Trent is obsessed with the idea that it exists. Right? He starts reading the books too to try to find like clues or whatever to what Sutter Kane might be up to.
And he does, yeah.
And that's how he discovers this town of Hobbs End, and he basically calls them out like, yeah, whatever. But
it's so clever sorry, I'm yelling into your mic. It's clever how he does it because he takes the covers of the books and somehow like he pieces them all together to find like the map.
There's there's outlines in the art that like creates a map of Maine, I think.
Oh no, New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's New Hampshire.
Is New Hampshire?
Yeah, but Hobbs End supposedly doesn't actually exist as a city, but through the night somehow they get transported into the city. So it's pretty neat. Anyways, go on.
So this piece there's like a red dot or something that shows where Hobbs End would actually be if it really
geographically,
existed. Yeah. So he goes looking for it with the agent. Is Sutter Kane's agent? Yeah, she says agent. No, his agent is the guy. Do you read Sutter Kane?
She's one of the publishers.
She's a publisher. Yeah,
she's one of the publishers because she has to read all his work and like do the editing.
Right. Yeah. So it's his editor. I don't fucking know. Whatever. I don't know that process.
The editor was the big guy that's like, I need you to bring back Sutter Kane.
That's Charlton Heston. From Planet of the Apes. Are you kidding me right now? I mean, I don't really like the guy. Like, I don't agree with the guy's politics.
I don't know the actor's name. I just know his face.
Yeah, but anyway. So, regardless, we can't stay focused with this one. Anyway, so they go to this made-up town, and basically, from that point on, the novels start becoming a reality. And that's what she keeps pointing out. I forget her name, too.
Linda Sykes, I think it is.
Yeah, she keeps, like, pointing out that they're in the made-up town, and then the whole Trent is like trying to rationalize everything, and that's why I like his character so much in this film, because he's so rational and so quick to like, because of the type of person that he is, and his job, he's so much about debunking bullshit that like he's so fixated on finding the bullshit in this supernatural situation that's going on, it's excellent. Basically, the fucking writer is writing he calls it the new Bible, but it's basically the manuscript of the apocalypse for the old gods to come back into our reality.
Yeah, so literally, I would argue that Sutter Kane's books are actually like a conduit for these old gods to come into our world. That's how I viewed it.
Yeah, well, this kind of brings up that element too that I think we've talked about this before on the show, the whole power of belief.
Yes.
Because he touches on that as well. He says more people read and believe my work than do the Bible, right? Another jab at Christianity, but once again, when you think the point is like more people read fiction novels, fiction horror, fiction whatever, than people that take the Bible seriously.
Yeah.
Like that's what he said. Like people never believed it enough to make it real. But my books have the opposite effect. People believe it so much that it's becoming a reality.
Yeah.
Right? So,
and that's really cool about this film, because the film approaches reality as if it's an actual living entity. And I thought that was a really neat concept, because we see that in the way that as Sutter Kane is writing his books, he's actually writing reality, right?
Yeah.
And we see as like Linda kind of starts reading the book to him, which is actually, every time they read a passage, is actually, I forget the name of the tale, but it's an H.P. Lovecraft story. I just forget the name of the story that they're actually, the passages are actually derived from. But she's like reading it as he's like acting it out, right? So you see that the reality is legitimately what Sutter Kane has written.
Wait, how the fuck did I not know that?
I don't know. You know what though? Shame on me. Because I can't even remember the name of the tale. But I know that a lot of those passages are actually taken from Lovecraft's work.
Fuck, how come I don't know?
I can't remember the name of the tale.
Unsubscribe now, I'm trash.
I should have written it down.
I'm a false prophet.
All these fucking notes and not one about H.P. Lovecraft.
I'm a false prophet, fuck me.
False prophet.
Claiming to be a fucking messiah of cosmic horror, and I don't even know that.
End this podcast. Peace. Fuck your mother.
That's your mother too!
Oh, shit.
But anyway.
So...
That's really cool. I didn't know that, actually. I'm kind of embarrassed that I didn't, but that's really cool.
So I just want to say that I like how, even in the movie, Sutter Kane, he explains that when the fans of his novels can no longer tell the difference between like fantasy and reality, the monsters, like these old gods of this other realm or of this other world, however you want to view it or say it, are able to kind of harness that disconnect of reality that the fans, that humans feel, and they can use that disconnect to give them power to come into our world. Like I said, these apocalypse novels are literally like a conduit for these old gods. And we see that at the very end when Sutter Kane like literally like tears himself open like paper, and then there's like this wall of like of practical effects and mega mega animatronics or
they're animatronics.
But they're huge, right?
You can actually see the wheels on some of them because of the.
But it's so cool, and like you see how after this whole movie, this breakdown of reality and what reality is and what it isn't, these old gods are just like chasing Sam Neill's character through that hallway. It was, oh my god, it was so cool. Bruce is texting right now.
No, I'm looking up the quote. I'm trying to find what the story is that they're reading from the novel because it's triggering me.
We'll have to go back and watch the film and write down or listen to what she says when she's reading it.
Yeah, I was just trying to find it because
I think even at some points when he's
I'm wondering if it's from Mountains of Madness.
Oh, probably.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that's
because even when Sam Neill's character is sitting at home reading the books, and I think he buys all of them. Spark, stop barking! We're trying to do a podcast, dog. And he's reading the books. He reads passages out loud to himself too, and I'm pretty sure that even those are actual passages from Lovecraft's tale.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Anyway,
so let's see. What else can I say about this? I really like one of the themes of this film. So I would say, because each film in the trilogy is a destruction of something different. So I should have mentioned this before. When we talked about Prince of Darkness, I would say it was the destruction of God. Because like you said, the conspiracy of the Catholic Church is that God doesn't exist. And this one, Mouth of Madness, is really the destruction of reality. And I want to... In the mind. I want to read a quote because I don't want to say it wrong. Because Linda Sykes... Yes, I want to read her quote because I don't want to get it wrong. So Linda tells Sam Neill's character in the film... A reality is just what we tell each other it is. Sane and insane could easily switch places if the insane were to become majority. And when she said that, it blew my fucking mind because it reinforces the idea that reality is really just a consensus on a shared belief amongst the majority. You know what I mean? So really, what does it say? Like, concepts like society and the universe in reality are only really as strong as bonds as we make them to be, right? So that's why this film, it's really about not understanding the reality that we actually occupy, because insane could actually be sane if it was a different reality. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it just blows my mind.
No, yeah, I agree. Like, the first time I saw this movie, just like the concepts that it was tackling were just, I loved it so much.
It's like so before its time.
Yeah, and honestly,
and you love the ending.
Yeah, the ending is so fucking good. Yeah, so I don't know where I was going with that. Yeah, the ending. I love how
I threw off your thought.
Yeah, I love how it's just him. It's the final culmination of him being like the last one to lose it all. Like everyone else has gone crazy. He still thinks he's sane. And there's like little Easter eggs too. Like when you see the poster from In the Mouth of Madness, it's got like starring John Trent as
it's the characters in the movie.
It's so good. And I think it even says like a John Carpenter film and shit like that. It's so good. And then so there's him watching he's watching his own movie and just starts like laugh / crying because the last bit of his sanity just is gone, and the movie
so
ends.
True. And I love how the whole movie, like even when you see it through his different interactions with the townsfolk in Hobbs End, he's slowly just starting to question what reality is. Like, what is the reality that he perceives to be reality? Because it doesn't really exist, you know? And he just starts to slowly descend into madness throughout the entire movie. And the movie's so perfectly paced, really. And then, like you said, it comes to that friggin' monumental ending where, like, there it is, man. Like, oh, what if they don't read books? They're making a movie.
Yeah. His whole life is basically exists at the beginning of the movie and ends at the end, and like he realizes that like right at the end, and like that's why he's laughing, because it's like this big life is a joke kind of comment, right? It's so fucking good. It's so
amazing. Yeah,
I love that movie. On the concept, like you were talking, I think that's kind of a good point to segue into The Thing, my favorite movie of all time. Yeah. So my favorite of the three,
we had to save it for last, even though it was the first.
Yeah, is The Thing. Now, anyone who knows me will hear me gush about this fucking movie over and over. This was one of the first horror movies I ever saw. This is one of the ones Mom showed me when I first got into horror. I think I saw this when I was like 11. 12.
It was one of those ones that Mom always wanted to watch every Halloween.
Yeah.
And of course, we would never object it.
Yeah. Now I watch it like once a month. You know. Honestly though,
we just watched it last night.
Yeah, like for real though, I posted about this on Slasher because like if I have a really shitty day, I go to one of three movies: Big Trouble in Little China, Mouth of Madness, or The Thing, and they're all John Carpenter movies. They're like my happy place.
And 2 of the 3 have Kurt Russell, and
I don't know what that says about me. Like if that's my happy place, like I'm kind of fucked.
Mouth of Madness, yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I usually go to one of those 3 films to kind of just like have a couple drinks and just like go of a shit-filled week or day. But like I liked your point about you were talking about like the deconstruction. In each film, like the destruction of God, destruction of reality. This one, I would say, is the deconstruction of humanity.
And even self.
Yeah, like the self. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like everything that would make you human, right? Including like trust, the idea of something that can just perfectly imitate you, and like you not knowing who is who anymore. So kind of breaking down again that sense of order, right? Because humans kind of live with like invisible rules, right? Like we don't expect to be murdered, kind of things like that. We don't expect certain things, but when we're dealing with, we can't all of a sudden trust the person sitting beside us, or
you can't trust me.
Those invisible those invisible walls are gone. Those rules that we set up as like a social beings. Yeah. Once those rules are gone, it's kind of terrifying, right?
100%. Yeah.
And The Thing deconstructs that completely, right?
Yep.
So when I first saw this movie, it fucked me up, but in a really good way actually, because this was the first time I ever realized the effect of a score in a film.
Oh my God. Even just watching it last night, you and I like heard the tunes. We looked at each other. We're like, "Whoo, do it, dude!" Yeah. Oh my God. And
it's so subtle.
And it's so simple.
Yeah, and so effective. Like it immediately starts inducing anxiety. Like you just start feeling it right away. Like it does it so fucking well. And the other thing that I was pointing out when we were watching it last night, because Becky hasn't seen it in a while.
Since last Halloween.
Yeah, was the that's a while.
Exactly.
What a lot of this movie in the early part of it is open and bright, even though they're like isolated, and you would expect it to be like a dark, like kind of like 40 days or 30 Days of Night. You kind of expect it to be dark and gloomy because of where they are, but no, it's the bright snow. It's the middle of the day. There's these open shots, even when they're like going through the Norwegian base, and it's like these wide angled shots of like so much, and you can see the destruction around it. The world building in this movie is so fucking strong.
Yeah.
You feel like you're there, and I think that's part of the reason why this movie, so many reasons, but
Yeah.
like the score sucks you in, the practical effects, the excellent acting, the intelligent script decisions. The characters don't ever really make dumb decisions. I think the only thing that we were joking about was the 80s magic computer. That like I think that's like the only bad thing.
The sorcery computer that can predict the future.
Yeah, all the computers in the 80s and early 90s could like fucking like hackers and shit. Like they just come up with these crazy things that computers can do.
Was that like the era of cyberpunk or something?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah, maybe that's where it stems from. I don't know actually, but
even in Jurassic Park, the fucking what was it? It was like some fake system that she's like flying through space accessing files. I'm like, what the fuck? Like
Yeah,
this random magic computer
to
shit.
put the power back on to lock the door for the
Get out of
dinosaurs.
here. I forget what it was. It sounded like it was some like knockoff of like Windows and Linux together or something like that. Anyway, that's besides the point.
Getting off topic.
Yeah, so like they got these bullshit like made up computer things, and like I think that's like honestly the only part that kind of pulls me out of the film. But like everything else is just like really smart like decisions, and like they're intelligent people. They're all intelligent people, but they're now facing with like panic, disorientation, this lack of trust. They don't know
Paranoia, suspicion. Yeah,
they don't know who's an alien, who's who they say they are.
Right, because they're not only questioning each other, but then themselves too, right?
And I don't get the vibe that these guys are necessarily all buddies, right? Like it's not like they're a bunch of pals. There's like
they're colleagues.
Yeah, like I don't even know like how close they are in that sense. I think it's more like you know, like when you work at like a greenhouse plant or some shit like that, and like you all have lunch together and shit, and you work together, but like you're not chums. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I kind of get that vibe with some of them, not all of them. I know that some of our friends they specifically say that, but there's already like tensions between them, like specifically between McCready and Childs. Like there's tensions there beforehand that kind of just manipulate the character throughout the film, which is excellent. And like I was saying, there's little subtle things that kind of show the characteristics without the
characteristic traits.
Yeah, the character storytelling that John Carpenter does with like very small things like the nose ring on the doctor, the hat on McCready, and like how he keeps calling them the Swedes, like this kind of not, I wouldn't say belligerent, but like don't really give a shit attitude, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like they're Norwegian, but he calls them Swedes.
Yeah, like so there's
and you're right, really. Pardon me. I like how
Clark and the dogs.
Yeah, I like how Carpenter has these very different and dynamic characters, but we don't really know that until like we see the film kind of like progress. And I would say, like what you said, kind of going off of that these characters are all very different characters, and Carpenter does their character traits so cleverly well, and like in such a subtle fashion. So like you said, there's like the nose ring or the hat, or like some of them will like make a certain facial expression. There will be like a certain line.
Palmer's quirkiness and like his joints.
Yeah, like certain things that they may even say at certain times, right? So we start to kind of get little glimpses of who these people are throughout the movie. So for us as an audience watching the thing, we're suspicious of all these characters because we don't really know who they are. We only get like little like subtle hints and glimpses of who they are, right?
And this is a movie. I agree 100%.
Yeah. Well, you fucking better.
Yeah. But like going off of that is that I don't really think any of the characters. I wouldn't say they're all likable, but I wouldn't say any of them are unlikable. Like they're all just kind of regular dudes. Like
and the cool thing too is that you're not really maybe McCready, because like we love Kurt Russell, but you're not really like necessarily rooting for any of them to like live or survive or anything. You're just like like whoever, like just see how it plays out, you know.
And the protagonist kind of shifts gears throughout the movie too, right? Like it doesn't start with McCready, it ends with McCready, but it doesn't start with McCready.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So like it shifts a few times, like it kind of weaves in. Like, just, there's so many things about this movie. I could honestly do a whole podcast episode just on The Thing.
We probably should at some point.
Yeah, at some point. We wanted to do the trilogy overall because we thought that was a little bit more of a dynamic topic than just me gushing about The Thing, which I could do. But, yeah, there's so many things about it. And it's just a movie that stuck with me my whole life. It's the only movie that scares my wife. She's the husky scene scares the shit out of her.
Oh my goodness. It is a terrifying scene. Like every scene you see with the huskies, It's sad, and because you and I are such animal lovers, like watch, and I keep telling myself like it's not real. They're not real dogs.
Yeah.
When you see them getting hurt, I'm like, ah.
But yeah, this like the scene where it's crying and McCready shoots it with the shotgun and Clark is like, no, and he smacks the gun and I'm like, that's me. I'm going to hurt my doggy.
I know. Oh my gosh. I can't even, and I feel so bad for Clark. Actually, that's the one character I truly, truly felt for was Clark.
Yeah.
Because not only was he like the animal lover, and and I was like, oh, I feel for him because I love dogs too. But then in the end, he gets murdered by McCready, and he's not even a fucking thing. He's not an alien at all. He's human. I'm like, oh, what a slap in the dick, man. Like, that sucks.
Yeah, he's just kind of like the big teddy bear too. Like I think everybody likes him.
He's literally you. He wears plaid as well.
Big dog lover, beard, You take McCready's alcoholism and like everything else about Clark and mix those together and it's me.
Alcoholic. At least not when we do the podcast.
Yeah, I'm sober for the podcast. I drink after. Just fucking around. But yeah, this is just my favorite fucking movie. I've never read Who Goes There, the novel that it's based on.
Right. I wrote that name down.
Yeah, Who Goes There.
Yeah, so I guess like Howard Hawks and Christian Nibsey, I think that's how you say it, Nibsey, in 1951, they did The Thing from Another World, which was based on John Campbell's novella Who Goes There. Yeah, and I thought that was really neat.
Now, the video, I'm not going to shit on the Angry Video Game Nerd, but when he did his video, he was all like, oh, I'm talking about the original thing. But the reality of that situation is that John Carpenter's Thing is a hybrid of both the novel and that film mixed together. Yeah, that's what it's not a remake. It's kind of a reboot of both.
It's reimagined.
Yeah. That's a perfect word. Yeah, it's a reimagining of both those stories that are very similar, and then it kind of puts them both together with this new idea. And I think it works really well for me. I haven't read the novel, so I can't compare it to that. But I know that more plant-like reptilian shape-shifting alien is in the novel opposed to, I guess, in the original film, which I also haven't seen. So I guess I shouldn't be talking about it either.
Neither have I, full disclosure.
But I know what it is. I know enough about it to, but I haven't seen it, so I can't really give a full thing. But as far as I understand, it's just more kind of an alien presence that's there. I don't know. I don't think it shapeshifts or anything. I don't really know.
No, so the alien, like we were talking about last night, like completely absorbs its host and then does like a perfect, I guess like next to perfect imitation, perhaps. Because like we talked about how the new thing kind of brings out the idea that it can't imitate non-organic matter, right? But John Carpenter never ever touched on that. So I'm sticking to Carpenter's view about it actually is a perfect imitation. Yeah,
to the point where, and we brought this up too because we were watching it last night. We were talking about the idea of it replicating. I forget it. I always want to say, is it Norman? I feel like his name's Norman. He just looks like a fucking Norman. The red-haired curly guy that has the heart attack. Oh. When he has the heart attack, he's a thing. Yeah. So the theory. My theory, and I think there's a couple other people have the same theory, is that it replicates humans even to the point to their defects. So if he had a defective, like an enlarged heart or a heart murmur or something like that, and it was already susceptible to having a problem, the thing, it replicated his defective heart. Or maybe he had like a fucking pacemaker or something, and it couldn't replicate that part, right? Which would tie into the new film. But you know what I mean? Not that you really want to tie anything into the new film, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, he still had the heart attack even after being a thing.
That's what kind of really makes so much suspense in this movie is the fact that because each of its imitations are perfect, that every one of these characters, we don't know who they are. They're all walking in a human disguise potentially, right? Like we don't know these characters, and you very kind of like throughout the film, you just see these like little glimpses of like everyone, how they distrust each other, and then you kind of want to distrust that person. You start to, as an audience, we start to gang up on the person that's being ganged up on in the film, right?
Yeah, and it happens a few times. Like it starts with Clark, then it's McCready, then it's Childs. Like it kind of just jumps around, like who they're blaming, and they all kind of. It's a really good like hive mind thinking thing too, like social experiment, where like someone just points a finger and now they all are on them, right? Like when they accuse I forget his name too. Jesus, I'm really bad with fucking names. But the leader guy, the older guy, the stuck on this fucking couch guy.
Oh, I think his name's Gary.
Gary,
I think
that's
it's Gary.
his name.
Yeah.
Gary. When they do the whole.
I like to spend the rest of his time not on this fucking couch.
Such a good line. Such
He's
a good
so
line.
calm and then he just like freaks the fuck out. I'm like, yeah, that is how we're feeling, dude. I get it.
Yeah.
Anyways, go on. Yeah.
But yeah. So my point is like they jump on him with the whole blood bank thing, right? So it's so easy. It kind of shows how quickly humans will side with the easy out, right? Like and to some degree, it's hard to say how much the thing is actually manipulating that because we don't know how versed it is in like our speechcraft, so to speak, right? Like our the ability to manipulate with words because it's there. I pointed this out too when
That's a good point.
Palmer never had another chance to become a thing after you see him call out the fact that the head is crawling away.
Yeah.
So the head's crawling away, and he turns around and says, "Oh, you got to be fucking kidding me!" And then they all turn around and blast the head. But Palmer's a thing at that point. So does he call it out because he's trying to manipulate the situation to keep himself alive and take the you know what I mean? So how intelligent is the thing to like manipulate people through speech, right?
Right. So I guess like my take on that would be the biological entity that it is wants to survive, and that's why it takes a host. It absorbs a human or a dog or what have you, because its biological necessity is to survive. So it will do anything in its environment, if it means like possible manipulation through speech, which would indicate that it's a very clever alien life form, right?
Yeah.
So that's even more terrifying than.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and it's obviously intelligent enough to craft spaceships and do interdimensional, not interdimensional, but like interplanetary travel.
Yeah.
Or like I said of craft, but maybe it could potentially if it imitates like brain patterns and stuff like that, maybe it takes over something that makes spaceships, right?
Yeah.
Something knows the travel itself. Because it learns the human stuff really quickly, right? It learns like it's still fulfilling those people's roles, those tasks that they would have done to blend into the situation, right?
It's a very adaptive species. It's clever. It knows its environment and it quickly adapts to its host and its environment. Yeah, absolutely possible.
So like I imagine it like also somehow gets like their memories, their brain patterns, and things like that. Like it has to because the way the things that it does. Otherwise, they would have different accents and stuff. They would talk differently,
And to go off of this speech idea as well, I think you're right, because one of the things that's also like really, really scary about the thing, like the actual thing, the monster, is the fact that you can't communicate with it. Because like even though it imitates us and it can talk like a human, but it's not the actual thing in its organic state, I suppose, right? Like you can't actually talk to the entity that is occupying these hosts.
Well, because I think it's a hive.
Yeah.
Each little organism, each piece of it is a part of a whole, a part of another whole.
Right. You're saying it so much better than I am. And the point that I'm making is the fact that because we can't talk to it, we don't know anything about it. We don't know its motives. We don't know why it's come to Earth, why it's assimilating us. We have no idea what its intentions and motives are.
Yeah.
But it's obviously destructive, right? It's obviously apocalyptic because that's the thing. But
So yeah, exactly. So obviously, the movie ends very bleak. If you haven't seen the ending of this movie, I'm sorry for you, but it ends with them blowing up everything and Kurt Russell sitting there drinking some fucking bourbon. I think it's bourbon. I think he's drinking Jim Beam. I think it's Jim Beam.
remember, probably.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly.
Because he's kind of got that cowboy thing going on.
Yeah,
right?
he's sitting there drinking his. I think it's bourbon, but anyway, he's drinking something. I don't know if it's the. Anyway, so he's drinking, and Childs shows up, and Childs has been missing this whole time. So there's this kind of like, where were you? What the fuck were you doing? Kind of thing. And then they kind of just both submit like, we can't really do anything about it because like if one of us is the thing, then like we're just gonna go back to sleep and freeze anyway, right? So
because that's how it hibernates. Yeah.
So it just kind of ends, and then the music starts right as Childs takes the drink, and then like does a boom boom.
And that's why I thought it was Childs.
Yeah, I think it is too. And then the movie ends, and that's just how it is. The implication there being that it just goes back to sleep, and then the rescue team shows up and brings it back to the mainland, basically, and it just consumes the whole planet. So so the apocalyptic theme there is not necessarily just the degradation of like the human self. Again, it's a societal breakdown or societal replacement. And it's the alien invasion apocalypse, right?
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to say it. I kind of wanted to wrap up with a few of his cinematography themes, if you want to do that.
Yeah. So, that's all you.
Because specifically in The Thing, we were pointing it out, but in all three of the movies, you can see, poor doggy's trying to come down the stairs. You can see in all three of these movies how Carpenter, unlike a lot of directors, specifically in this era, I think the directors used to call him out on his type of filming, but Carpenter always uses these really huge wide screens when he's filming. Very seldom does he have the protagonist in any kind of object at all in a close-up in frame. Everything is a very wide screen, and it makes us as viewers see that all of these characters, all of these protagonists and objects and elements are all very much a part of the same environment. There's really no distinction. And even though all the angles are very wide and you see and sometimes in The Thing you see the whole cast in one shots at a time, everything still feels so claustrophobic because the protagonists, the characters are never close up in the camera. They're never separated from the background, from their environment. They're always just completely sucked into their environment.
I'd argue specifically in The Thing, it also shows, it's also like a subliminal, like the insignificance of man type thing. Because there's all these scenes where they're like this big, and there's this huge spaceship that they're standing on, and there's like the sunken in, and like they're like this big, and there's a few scenes like that where they're like really small in comparison to what they're looking at.
And that's exactly the point. I'm glad that you brought that up, because the idea of Carpenter filming in these widescreens is to make the character feel confined in their space, in their environment, because the world is big and we are small. And that's that.
It's great storytelling how he does it too.
Yeah.
It's like a passive way of show don't tell, basically, right?
Yes.
Like the idea that when you're writing a novel, you want to show, not drop a bunch of exposition, right? So he does that very well in movie form.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I think that's such a beautiful way to end it. And I always like to end it on that little note of the cinematography, by the way.
Brunch.
Just so you know, I noticed these things. But yeah, so you want to wrap it up there?
Yeah, I think that's a good spot. Yeah.
Okay, so hey, let us know which one is your favorite. Yours is
The Thing.
Mine is The Mouth of Madness.
It is. For you.
I know. I like that warped reality, all fucked up and shit. Because I think one of my biggest fears would be the loss of reality. That's why I really resonate with this movie. But let us know what your favorite one is. We're super curious. They're all great films. But I've heard a lot of people say the weakest is Prince of Darkness.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty general agreement. If you're one of the people that thinks it's one of the stronger ones, let me know and tell me why, because I'm actually really curious. Maybe I missed something. I said this to Becky as we watched it, maybe we missed something with this, because sometimes I'll watch a film 2-3 times and I still don't get the point, or I missed something that's really integral.
Yeah, even with The Witch, we had to watch it.
We're not film critics, we're just a couple of horror nerds talking about shit on our couch, so,
let us know.
Yeah, say something, because then we can rewatch it with another set of eyes, right?
Yeah, and we're always so open-minded with that, because we love horror so much. We just want to just take it for all that it is.
Yeah, and like I said, even you rewatch The Witch multiple times, and you can see a completely different story every time, right?
Yeah.
I mentioned that briefly not so briefly, but in the last podcast. I love that kind of shit. So, yeah. I don't have anything else to say, guys. So
thank you for tuning in to this one.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. I hope you like this one. It's a bit longer again, but this was kind of a more laid back one.
We had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah,
films are so good.
Just kind of shooting the shit a little bit, having a more chill episode after a heavy duty one. We got some new fun stuff coming. Gonna check out Becky's channel. She's got some shit coming real soon.
Still collabing though. Still collabing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're still doing stuff together. Don't worry. I've been slacking on my reviews. It's just been with the Rona lockdown and everything. It's been really hard to. I work in public health, so like my job has been crazy. And it's just been really hard right now. So I'm gonna get back to reviews shortly, but the podcast we're gonna keep it going, and that'll be that's our main focus really is the podcast. It seems to be a most well received content, and we really hope that you like the extra steps we've taken to kind of bring it up a bit more.
I also think that we should shout out our new boy, Gory Rory.
Oh, yeah.
Just gotta give you a shout out, dude.
Yeah,
oh
man.
my gosh. If you guys don't know, Gory Rory, he's on Slasher as Gory Rory. That's how we met him on this platform. He made the music for our intro, and like he did it like with like no hesitation. He's like, yeah, like, you know, just like right away, had it done like so soon. We're like, what? That was so quick. Like it was so sick. And I must have like watched it like 50 times as soon as you said that he had it finished. I was like, oh my god, it's so good. So thank you, Gory Rory.
Yeah,
you
man.
were so awesome. Thank you so much for your support. Like you were like our first fan, like our first loyal fan.
Yeah, we love it. It was such an excellent piece that you did for us, and anyone I've shown it to, like before we actually aired it, was like, that was so fucking unsettling and creepy, and with our like the imagery and like people that aren't like really big horror fans, us horror fans are a little bit more conditioned, but like like other people like my mother-in-law was like, that was so scary, and like
our brother
who's a big puss who thinks Paranormal Activity is the scariest movie ever made.
I like how Willow's just sticking her head in right now.
Hey, Pop.
She's like, I love Gory Rory's music. It's so good. But anyways, we're gonna leave it there. I'm gonna sign off, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in, guys. You know, the usual. Stay safe. Look after each other. Look after yourselves. And of course, stay sick, fuckers.
Stay sick, fuckers. Cthulhu's my god.
In Thulu we trust.
It actually says it on my shirt.
Take care, everyone. That's weekend.
You scared me with that clap. Sorry, clap again.
Like we're kind of ghetto with our shit anyway.
Yeah, we're just gonna stand like this. Oh, I'll show my Cthulhu shirt.
Let's clap first. So I can line it up. 3, 2. Oh wait, I'm retarded.
We're gonna clap after we hit start.
I'm dumb. 3 to go.
Yeah, I agree.
Precious is in the star of the show.
I'm trying to like not look at you and like yell into your mic by accident.
Same, yeah.
Trying to talk, so I go.
So used to looking at you. Maybe at some point we'll set something up where we're like across from each other or something.
Yeah, like eventually we'll get there. Like right now, I'm like I keep trying to. Like, so you don't have such a big fucking mouth when I speak. Okay. Okay. So So,
take on my mind.
We're never gonna do this podcast, so just keep singing.
What? Lost your train of thought?
Yeah.
I fucked you up? Sorry.
No, it's all good. And now I'll start going. There it goes, okay. Where is it just sitting there? Precious, you're in my seat! Sniff my ass.
No, not my old lady. Poor pup.
Hi, Willow. You're lucky we didn't start our podcast just
She's
yet.
bringing her stick. Don't knock anything over, you big chunk of meat.
Hi, doopy girl. Can you see in the camera? No,
No,
it
I can't
looks like
see
we're
her.
talking to a demonic entity just floating around. Ooh. It's all
Here she comes. She's coming up onto the couch.
Hi, big girl.
She's in the camera.
Dirty toy. Go fetch.
That's her I
She's
love
like,
you.
what the fuck? You just threw my toy?
That's her I love you. She brings you that because she loves
Hi,
you.
girl. Hi, girl. That's, yes.
Don't sniff box. Get out of here.
That's still me. Don't worry. Bye, girl. Bye, girl. Okay, we are recording. Do you have your train of thought still?
Yeah. It's something along the lines of, Hail Satan!
And have a lovely day.
Yeah, I was just talking about the bullshit computer. And like the idea that the script is so well done except for that one part. So.
It is COVID. Get over it. Okay, so.
Roller blast!
I forgot all of a sudden I have a vaccine thing on my shirt. We had to stop the podcast so I could go get my vaccine.
It's not even a joke.
It's not even a joke.
That's going in the bloopers.
Everyone's like, what's that thing that suddenly appeared on Beck's fucking pod? My vaccine. I got it at 5. Okay, anyways, fuck off.
Yeah, now the government's tracking you because, you know, they don't do that through your cell phone.
You know what? If I don't grow...
And your social insurance number and your taxes.
Exactly, but I'm telling you now, like, if I don't grow a second head and wings, I'm killing myself.
Yeah, fuck.
I'm drowning myself in Niagara Falls.
Yeah, what's the point of living at that point? I didn't mutate with the coronavirus? What the fuck?
What the fuck is this shit? I didn't get a vaccine to be healthy. I got a vaccine to mutate.
X-Men, motherfucker!
Right?
Okay.
Love it. So now we can do another cut. I can't wait to cut myself.
Yo, same.
I want to.
The pain is like adrenaline, a sudden rush from me. Looks like our battery's about to die, though.
Looks like you're about to die, though.
Oh, fuck my life.